Hello everybody, it's Pete from MyJewelryBench.com. Today we're going to make a quick little item for my brother-in-law who wants to 3D print something for a little part that he needs to fix his kite. It is a support angle bracket that I believe goes on the end of a pole and will support the frame of the kite. So I'm going to pause here real quick and just say, for all those naysayers out there who say you can't model in Blender or use Blender as kind of a CAD program, I do it every single day, and I just want to use this little example as a way to show you that it can be done. Now let's get back to the video. So let's go ahead and get this designed. This item has to be approximately 1¼ inches by 1/16 inches. It's going to be an L-shaped item, and I've converted it all to millimeters because I'm used to working in millimeters, and we're going to grab that. We're going to get rid of this cube. Actually, now let's bring back that cube. I'm going to hit Shift A, mesh cube. We'll bring back that cube. Cube is 2 millimeters square, but we need to make this approximately 8 millimeters. So let's size that up to 8 millimeters, right about there. We come over here, make it exact, 8 millimeters by 8. And the length overall of this piece is going to be approximately 32 millimeters long. Let's make that 32 millimeters long on the y-axis. 32. Okay, so I've come over here and added my dimensions. Now this piece is not going to be square, it's actually going to be rounded over. And to do that, I'm actually going to make this, I'm going to make some changes to this before I'm finished. We also have to have the support tube. The tube is going to be the part that holds the little bar, and then this is just an end cap that needs to be rounded over just a bit to not have any sharp edges. So we're going to modify that when we get to that point. Let's start with the next piece, which is the L-shaped part of this. It is a tube-shaped item with a triangle in the middle. So first we need to do is make an 8.2 millimeter cylinder. So I'm going to hit Shift A. I'm going to come over to Mesh. We're going to scroll up to Cylinder. We're going to add that. I'm going to come over before I make that final, and I'm going to make this 64 vertices. Gives us a little bit better shape. This needs to be 8 millimeters wide, or 8.2 millimeters wide. So we're going to size that up to 8.2, 8.2, 8.2, 8.2. Okay, and that's going to get moved over to the end. And this needs to be approximately 1 1/16 inches, or 28 millimeters tall. So I'm going to make that 28 millimeters on the z-axis. Okay, so far so good. I'm going to bring that up to about here. So far so good. And I'll bring that down just a little bit, but we're going to make some changes to this before we finish modeling. Now again, this cylinder has to have a triangle shape in it. It's not necessarily round. So let's see if we can make a triangle, equilateral, or equal triangle here. I'm going to try to draw this out. I'm going to start with a plane, Shift A. We're going to add a mesh. I'm going to move that out. I'm looking at this from the top down. This needs to be, I'm not sure the exact dimensions, so we're going to kind of eyeball it. We're going to go to edit mode. I'm going to grab the vertex tool here. I'm going to grab this vertex right there. I'm going to hit X to delete that vertex only. And now we're left with this not quite perfect triangle. So what I want to do is draw a line between these 2 points. I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to grab that one. And I can leave the F key. We'll draw a line between those 2 points. And I want to make this a little bit smaller, so I'm going to grab the G key and I'm just going to move this to about here. Let's grab them all. And that looks like it's giving me about a good equal triangle. I'm just going to move this in just a little bit, just like that. Press the tab, hit, let's see, tab, go back into edit mode, hit all, extrude. Well, let's do this here. Before we do that, let's press F to give it a face, extrude ZZ, and we're going to make this approximately, let's go back into object mode. On the Z axis, let's make this, how about We've got 28 millimeters. I'm going to make this 20 millimeters. Okay, so it's the right height, and it needs to be approximately 4 millimeters wide. So looking at this from the top, I come over here and I'm going to hit S, and I'm going to size this up to approximately 4 millimeters. That looks good right there. And with that done, I'm going to zoom out. Oops, we're a little tall on that. How did we get that big? 20 millimeters, there we go. And now I'm going to take this, I'm going to move this up a little bit and press the 7 key to look down on my key or my view, and I'm going to drag that over with the G key over to the center of the circle. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger, approximately like that. And in 3D printing, this is going to shrink a little bit, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Let's take a look from the side view. We want to bring this down a little bit to about here. And now let's just take a look. That looks pretty good. And now I'm going to cut this out. So I'm going to hold that selected with the left mouse button. Holding the shift key down, I'm going to grab our cylinder, and then I'm going to come over to the Boolean tool and do a difference. That gives us a cutout in our model. Okay, so I've got that done. Now this needs to be rounded on this side, on the bottom side of this piece. We need to have a rounded edge so that it has no sharp edges. Let's see here. I'm going to go into object mode with that selected. I'm going to press Control A to align our rotation and scale. That just resets our model. Press Tab to go into object mode or edit mode. And we're going to make this just a little bit bigger, just about like so. And I'm going to grab this edge here with the edge tool selected right there. I'll grab this edge, hold the shift key down, grab the other edge, and I want to add a bevel to this, so Control B, and then I'll move my mouse away and get it to about that point, and we'll round it over. Just about like so. Looks good just like that. Okay. And I'm going to take this edge here, hold the shift key down, grab these edges here. We're going to do the same thing, Control B, and I'm going to try to add a bevel to these. Now, it's going to give me a little bit of warping over here, but that's okay. And I'll grab this, shift, select these. I'm going to grab these two also. Control B, and we'll move away, and we'll just give these just a little bit of a bevel, just like so. This might have some errors in the model, but I think we can correct them. So far, so good. Let's go back into object mode. With that selected, I'm going to hold the shift key down, grab our cylinder, come over to Boolean and do a union. Should blend those two together. So now we have one piece. I like the way that looks. But again, we probably have some errors in the model. One quick way to test that is to actually bring it into our slicer. That's the best way to do it. I could use the 3D print tool to check all, and that'll tell us we have 3 overhanging faces. And if I select that in edit mode, we see our overhanging faces just like so. We have non-flat surfaces, and we have 0 faces. So we do have some errors in this. Now to fix that, I come back into item view or item on my tab here. I'm going to zoom in. The quickest way to fix that in Blender without having too many issues, let's just look at this from the top up. What I'd really like to do is remesh this, and that should give us a filled in 0 problem model. So let's come over to add modifiers. I'm going to come over to the modifiers tab, hit the add modifier, come down to remesh. With the remesh tool selected, with voxel selected, I'm also going to decrease this number to 0.015. And we're going to see what that does to our model. Gives us a nice finely detailed model. If we come into wireframe mode, we can see we have quite a bit of faces. I think we have 532,000 tries. So a very, very, very detailed model. but it eliminates all our problems. So I'm going to hit apply all, come back into solid view, and there is our model. And now we've probably eliminated each and every one of our 3D print errors. So let's go check that. I'll hit check all. It's checking. There are quite a few faces to check, so it's going to take a few minutes here. Okay, now that it's done, it says 0 faces. Let's go in edit mode so we can see which ones we've got to deal with. Okay, so if I select those, here you can see we have 0 faces along here. Now, we could go through and manually do those, but I think we're going to be okay. Non-flat surfaces, there's a few down here, not too many. And then overhanging faces, we have approximately 62,000 overhanging faces, which makes sense. But those are, overhanging faces are no problem with 3D printing because there's going to be support, so we don't have to deal with that. Let's go back into object mode. Now here is our model. We know it's in pretty good shape, so I'm going to export this out as an STL file. So with this selected, I'll come down to File, Export, STL. I'm going to put this on my desktop, and I'm going to save this as a kite part.stl. I'm going to select selection only so that we're only going to save that one item and not the other items in the scene. Press the export button. It's going to save that on our desktop. Now I can bring up our slicer. I'll open up Sheet2Box. With Sheet2Box open, let's go grab our model. So I'll come down here to open. I'm going to open up a file on our desktop. So let's go look for that. Desktop. And you can see we've got kite part STL. I'm going to double click that. And it brings it into our slicer. And you can see there are no errors in the model. This doesn't even need to be, we pretty much don't even need to add supports to this if we print this like it's shown here, because it's going to print exactly how it's supposed to. With that done, I can come over and select whatever printer I want. And I'm going to use my Epex. We'll hit slice. And there's our file. I can run through that on the slicer. It's just going to slice down a little bit at a time so we can get a view of what's happening with our model. And you can actually see the model being sliced here in the viewport. Don't need to continue with that, so I'm just going to pause that. And then we can save this out to a memory stick just by hitting save. And we'll put this on the desktop, and it's underscore kitepart.ctb. And I'll hit save, and that's ready to go. Okay, guys, so here's our finished model, and I rendered it out. Anytime, like I said before, anytime somebody tells me that you can't model anything in Blender for 3D printing, I just kind of laugh at them because Blender is not the best CAD program to use, but it's a great modeling program. And if you work with it long enough and if you get used to how it works and its commands, you can model just about anything you want, even precision items. So you can make things with Blender to have 3D printed. Always keep that in mind. Don't let anybody tell you Blender is not a CAD program, because you can use it for CAD. It's not specifically a CAD program. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and have a great day.